Hello again, everyone. Welcome to Washington Gun Law TV. I'm Washington Gun Law President William Kirk. Thanks for joining us. Hey, we are going to need to talk about February 28th. Why February 28th? Well, if you've been geeking out on this channel or any of the other ones that are doing a good job of keeping you informed, you will know that the United States Supreme Court is going to hear oral arguments in the matter of Cargill v. Garland that day. That is a case that successfully threw out ATF's bump stock ban out of the Fifth Circuit. The United States actually asked for an appeal on that. The United States Supreme Court accepted that review, and away we go. Now, a lot of people, especially those in the mainstream media, will tell you that this case is all about whether or not the Supreme Court's going to allow Americans to have machine guns again. But is that really true? Oh no, not at all. It's actually completely false. And in fact, this case is about something far more important than that. In fact, I think a lot of people fail to recognize just how important this case is going to be. So today, we're going to try to connect some of those dots so that you can understand. So let's spend a few minutes today and let's talk about why the Cargill case will be bigger than Bruen. Okay, hear me out here, everyone, because the case we're going to talk about today is Cargill v. Garland. It is a challenge to ATF's ban on bump stocks. It was successfully challenged down in the Fifth Circuit. The United States government appealed to the United States Supreme Court. They accepted review, and here we are. Oral arguments are set for 9 a.m. Eastern Time on February 28th. Now, the mainstream media and those who don't bother to actually read the briefs will say that this is all about just putting dangerous weapons of war back into the hands of normal Americans, because that's going to be done by this renegade runaway Supreme Court. The truth of the matter is that this case has very little to do with bump stocks at all, and absolutely nothing to do with machine guns, because this is not a challenge to any portion of the National Firearm Act. So Vice News and all you other people out there, MSNBC, have been saying all of this other stuff. You guys are flat out wrong. Many of you probably think this is about just bump stocks. It is in a way about bump stocks, but it is something far more important than that, because this case actually has the ability to stop the way the ATF has been doing business for the last several years, and I'll explain why. Okay, let us go back to October 1st of 2017. The most horrific of mass shootings in the history of the United States occurred during a country western concert just off the Strip that evening. 60 people lost their lives, 413 people were wounded, there was over 1,000 rounds allegedly discharged, and bump stocks were used on the firearms of the shooter. Within days, there was an immediate call to ban bump stocks. Candidly, I'd never even heard of a bump stock up until that horrific incident took place. Now, President Trump at that time had very slim numbers in the chambers, but was the political will there to pass a bump stock ban? Yeah, there probably was. Was the political numbers there for Congress to act and actually pass a piece of legislation that would have banned bump stocks? Yes, there probably was. Would that legislation have been subject to constitutional challenge? It most definitely would have, and we may have still had to resolve this issue under other grounds. But rather than have Congress do its job, rather than actually go out and pass some legislation, which the president could have actually used in his re-election campaign, no, instead, he created a whole new playbook. And that new playbook is I'm just going to tell the ATF to make these things illegal. And let us remember that that playbook had never, ever been implemented until the bump stock ban. Now, it is a playbook that we have seen re-implemented now with pistol braces, with unfinished frames and receivers, with forced reset triggers, with wide open triggers, with solvent traps, and the list goes on and on. And so this playbook, the playbook that you guys have had shoved down your throat by the ATF for years, that's what's at stake in Cargill v. Garland. Because you see, for whatever reason, rather than pass legislation, pass laws the way our founding fathers set this country up to do, no, instead we just let an executive agency off its leash like some kind of a vicious attack dog and basically told them, go sick 'em, boy, and get after the bump stocks. And what ultimately happened is that you had an administrative agency turn thousands of Americans into criminals overnight, because the minute they banned those bump stocks, they gave those users two options: surrender them, that is an unconstitutional taking under the Fifth Amendment, or face criminal prosecution. And all of this occurred without a single act of legislation. So, you want to know what's at stake in Cargill v. Garland? I'll tell you what's at stake. Yeah, the separation of powers. Yeah, how our government is meant to be run. Yeah, how laws are meant to be passed. Yeah, the entire rule of law and the structure of how our country works. That's what's at stake in Cargill v. Garland. If anyone wants to really take an objective view at what Cargill v. Garland is it about machine guns? Not at all. Is it about bump stocks? A little bit. Is it about the rule of law and the constitutional integrity of this country moving forward? That's exactly what it's about. Now listen, oral arguments are again set for 9 a.m. on the morning of February 28th. Now I may be hopping in on a cool little live chat on Twitter, although it is 6 o'clock in the morning for me out here, so I might not be on my A game. We will obviously do some videos to recap the oral arguments and try to read the tea leaves as where the justices are coming from. People, I'm telling you, you thought Bruen was big a couple of years ago? This case is every bit as big, if not bigger. The case, once again, is Cargill v. Garland. We'll link it up down below so you can geek out on it. If you got any other questions about this or anything else related to what's left of our Second Amendment rights, you guys should know how to get a hold of Washington gun law by now. If you don't, that's okay. That information is also down there in the description box. Now, let's everyone remember that part of being the lawful and responsible gun owner, like we talk about all the time here, is to know what the law is in every situation and how it applies to you in any instance that you may find yourself. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay safe.